Hey guys, Bran here, and welcome to another commentary video. Today we're going to be talking our feelings about good old VECNA, good old Vicky, and how they performed on live. Because one of the biggest things about VECNA was that they were pretty fun in the PTB, but going to live, there was a lot of concerns over the changes and if they would improve VECNA, because despite being fun, they were fairly weak. So how did that all pan out, and how do I feel about it? Let's go ahead and talk about it. First, I want to talk about, this is kind of funny, is that there's a lot of dissenting opinions about this character. Like, we don't really have a consensus on how this character is viewed, and some people are calling them S tier and super strong and the next Singularity, which Singularity is not even S tier, so I don't know where the wires crossed there. Yes, that pun was intentional because he's a robot. Got you there. But a lot of people are saying that he's super strong, super great, and the changes fixed everything. And other people are like, oh, well, he's just the same, and despite some numbers changes, he kind of just performs exactly the same way, just with some little, that wasn't as bad in there. And I think with all things in life, the extreme of either take or opinion is usually not the right one, and usually it's not founded in truth. I feel like the truth lies somewhere in the middle, that they are just all right. They are very aggressively okay. Definitely when I first got on today and I first started having my games, I was like, I'd read all the patch notes and I read all these good changes, and a lot of people on, DBD Twitter and multiple Twitch streams were like, oh yeah, you're so much better now because ABC, oh my gosh, it's like a breath of fresh air. And then I go in and play, and realistically, he kind of plays basically the same way he did in the PTB. Basically. I was very, very underwhelmed by a lot of the changes. Like, I think the best way I can describe it is like a kid submitted to, like, I was a teacher for 5 years. I bring that up a lot. It's relevant, I promise, but it's just kind of how I view the world in a lot of different ways. But it's like, I gave you an assignment. Yeah, you got to write me an essay. And the kid hands me like a C- paper. Like, there's my essay. I'm like, okay, like, that's not a failing grade, but like, you could have absolutely done better. Submit a second draft. I guarantee it'll be better, and I guarantee you will get a better grade. I will take the second one over the first one. Like, well, this is if that student decided to take the second submission of the essay and decided to only put in a C+ paper. That's how it feels. It feels like we just went from C- to C+. Not in tier lists before somebody's like, you say he's C+ tier, he's so good. Look, I'm just meaning in the American grade system, okay? Like, chill, relax, it's okay. Yeah, it's like, I feel like the improvements were mostly marginal. Like, I would definitely take them. Don't look the gift horse in the mouth. I will definitely take those. Especially considering the cooldown. Essentially, you're still married to using the cooldown add-ons a lot, if not at least one every game, because the cooldown is so severe. Still, even then, but I definitely will take that over the one we had in the PTB. But I don't feel like it's impressive enough that suddenly the character is fixed and fine. I did like what somebody said in my chat earlier today. That's like, VECNA's kind of like a weird character in the sense that, like, you got to be really, really careful about the way you adjust them, because if you adjust even one of their powers like way too much, or like to be way too strong, suddenly the character becomes really, really obnoxious. You got to be really, really careful about buffing a character like this. I do think that they had the right idea where, like, the base of the character is fine, and they just need a lot of, like, numbers adjustments. They don't really need severe changes, except for one thing we'll get into. Like, a lot of it's just like cooldown less. That'd be nice. I know you've adjusted once, but cooldown less would be great. So maybe a little bit less on the cooldowns, and things will be a lot better. The one thing I actually will critique, and the one thing I will say is kind of like still pretty annoying and pretty hard to use, if not just outright useless in a lot of scenarios, is the Flight of the Damned. So the biggest critique of the Flight of the Damned, which is the projectile power that VECNA has, is that it is a flying projectile that does damage, but it's crouchable. And the idea was that with the buff that it got with the with the dev update into the live release, that you would have less time to dodge it, so there goes fine. It was not. There's still a tremendous amount of time to dodge the Flight of the Damned Skeleboys. I think the difference being is, like, they're a lot less reactable. So, like, you can do funny things like put them behind walls and smacking people if they're not paying attention, or like you can put the Skeleboys directly on top of people, which is really funny. And so they just, like, don't have the ability to dodge. That's fun. The main way I found to make these work is by trying to catch people in fixed animations like a vault or a pallet drop. But then again, I have to get the hard read on that, because if they end up just like faking it, then I just send it and they crouch like usual. And obviously if they're crouching next to a pallet, that's just a pallet drop, and then they continue their life as is. I think, and this might be a hot take, and once again, it's not first day anymore when this releases, but it's first day after I just got done playing them for 4-ish hours. The hot take is, I think that the iridescent book that they have is a much better representation of Flight of the Damned than the actual power is. So that book has 2 effects. The one which is you fly through windows, you bamboozle it for 45 seconds, I believe. And then the second part, which is Flight of the Damned goes down to 2 Skeleboys, but they are low to the ground, so you can't crouch them anymore. But they're much harder to hit. And I felt like that was like a much more gratifying and sensible version of this power than the one that currently exists. Because there's not a lot of Skeleboys, you have to be fairly accurate with your aim and travel time in order to hit them, and they cannot crouch it. But, you know, it's not just I shoot straight at them. They go out in kind of like a cone without covering the middle area. So as a survivor that's paying attention can still dodge between those spaces if they're paying attention and knowing when it's a good time for that power to come through, without it just being control. This is like the end. Like, I'm surprised people aren't more critical of this, to be honest with you, because one of the biggest things we could critiqued about Chucky, which got taken away, was that, hey, I get to win a chase just for hitting spacebar, which was obviously didn't feel good and didn't feel great. Now we're on the reverse situation with VECNA, and we're like, no, hitting one button, the control key, that's okay. We can keep that. That's fine. That makes sense. Is this not a double standard? Spacebar to win, bad. Control key to win, good. What? Why is there a double standard here? Why are we treating these things entirely differently? I don't understand. I don't get it. I doubt they will make such a significant change to the power like that. Obviously, they released the character as is, so obviously they think Flight of the Damned should be crouchable, unless you want to use that very specific add-on. It's an iridescent, so it's pretty expensive to run pretty non-stop. So it's not going to be something that financially you're going to be able to run constantly, unless you main the character. So that's kind of disappointing. As somebody who does not have plans to main the character, because I am essentially married to the Xenomorph, no, not the Queen. That was a joke. That I'm not really going to be stocking up on those iridescent add-ons nonstop to be able to play them casually. So I don't know. I think it's really sad that Flight of the Damned is kind of just like the way it is. The other thing I will say is, like, the idea behind like the spells having long cooldowns makes sense to me, because I don't want you just spamming the same spell over there, like Mage Hand every 2 seconds, right? And if you use the spell wrong, they want you to be able to be punished for using the spell incorrectly or inefficiently. I think the problem is that, like, the spells are kind of like they're all solutions to different problems. And only some of them sort of overlap. Like, both Mage Hand and Flight of the Damned technically are chase-like tools, right? But obviously, we talked about the issues of Flight of the Damned being kind of clunky and not really as good as it should be. So once, those are spent, you are 115 man with flying dagger, and that's it. I think that's the one thing I will have to summarize is that, like, I just spent so much time floating around as 115 Raisin with floating dagger, and that was it. There was so much time I spent just as 115 killer, which was very underwhelming, especially on like stronger setups and stronger maps. I just felt really, really powerless in a lot of situations. Like I said, the flight can be used as a chase ability, but is mostly used for map traversal. The Mage Hand is like your main chase tool. Flight of the Damned is also a chase tool, but it obviously is just completely easily countered, so not really. And then you have the Orb, which is your info tool. I know it has other applications with the items and stuff like that, but basically, like, that really long cooldown applying to all of the spells equally. Basically, that really long cooldown hitting all those spells when I realistically am only going to be using 1 or 2 in a specific situation, then 1 and 2 in a different situation, feels extra punishing. Like, if I could use every single spell in chase, I would absolutely, like absolutely be like lowering the cooldown of that, but like it's really contextual and realistically, like I feel it's like almost like boons. It feels like boons. It feels like we're balancing the spells around, like the spell cooldown around Mage Hand and not making Mage Hand really obnoxious, and not the spell concept in general, which is what happens with boons. With like we balanced the boon situation around Circle of Healing when the rest of the boons were fine. We just didn't win another Circle of Healing situation, so we balanced boons completely around this one perk, which hurt the concept in general. And I feel like that's like the same situation that we're in. Also, funny thing I noticed, and this is just like a little funny caveat to end the video on, I think it's really funny that like there's a lot of very funny, weird coincidences between the VECNA and the Xenomorph. VECNA's main problem is cooldowns, which they can mitigate through a very cheap yellow and green add-on, with the yellow add-on being very, very good for how cheap it is, and the green add-on being good as well for fighting those cooldowns. Man, it's almost like the Xenomorph also has a main counterplay problem with turrets, which is also mitigated by a really cheap and very well-performing yellow add-on, and then a green add-on as well. What is that Phineas and Ferb joke with Doofenshmirtz? It's like, it's weird that it happened twice, or whatever it was. Like, it's that because it's weird that that happened twice. It's very interesting, very weird. Yeah, that's how I feel about VECNA. I know is like, I feel like this is a whole other video. We're not gonna get into this, but I feel like the DBD community is getting like increasingly more polarized. Like, you have to either absolutely love everything or absolutely hate whatever happened, or else like you're not in the right. I don't know what the deal is with that, but I know I'm going to upset a lot of people by not showering VECNA with praise and all the changes that came through, and I'm also not going to make a lot of friends on people that say like VECNA is really bad and needs to just be completely overhauled or whatever. But it is what it is. Like I said, I feel like both extremes are not true, but hopefully I'll meet you in the middle, and if I don't know. Can't help you. It's a thoughts video. It's my feelings video. Can't tell me I'm wrong. That's just my take. But I do upload daily though, so if you want to see more of my bad takes, you'll see them tomorrow. But if you do not, well, I don't know. I guess I'll just see you when I see you. Bye-bye.